Good evening and welcome into Sports Talk on a Budget on this beautiful Monday evening. It is January 29th, year of our Lord 2024. Got a big show for you today. It's going to be all about the games that happened yesterday in the championship week for the NFL. Before I get into that, please like and subscribe to the show. The button should be right down there. If you prefer the audio version, we can be found on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music, all under Sports Talk on a Budget. Like I said, this show is going to be all about the championship weekend. I'm going to react to both the AFC and NFC championship games. Going to do a very, very small, brief look ahead to the Super Bowl. We'll do a preview to the Super Bowl next week, but this is all going to be about the games that happened yesterday and my overall reaction to the two games and the two teams that are moving on to the Super Bowl. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the show. So first game we're going to react to is going to be from the AFC, and that is the Chiefs-Ravens game, and that is the Chiefs winning in Baltimore at M&T Bank Stadium 17-10 over the Ravens. And I had a lot of reactions to this game, and first reaction was just how the Chiefs came out, just punched Baltimore in the mouth, went down the field, scored on their first two possessions, went up 7-0, then 14-7, and there's kind of that old adage or that old quote from Mike Tyson is everybody's a tough guy. Everybody thinks they're a tough guy until they get punched in the mouth. Don't know if I quoted that correctly, but that's exactly what happened to the Ravens. Ravens came in. They had the ball on the first drive. I think they got one first down and then went 3-and-out after that. And then this Chiefs team, which we've been talking about all season, the offense isn't the same. It doesn't look great. Even in the playoffs when they've played well against Miami and Buffalo, people were saying, well, Miami and Buffalo's defense isn't nearly as good as the Baltimore Ravens, and they were banged up. They had injuries. But this Chiefs team did exactly what they had to do on those first two drives. Like I said, punched Baltimore in the mouth, went right down the field, scored on both drives. Travis Kelce had, I think, 7 receptions on the first two drives, including a touchdown on the first drive. He had 11 receptions overall in the game and over 110 yards receiving and that touchdown. So he had a great game, but the Chiefs set the tone for the game right off the bat. You knew exactly how they were going to play this game right off the bat. And what they did for the Baltimore Ravens is they got the Baltimore Ravens out of their comfort zone. This Baltimore Ravens team, especially with Lamar Jackson, they're not a team that likes to play from behind. They like to play with the lead, lean on their run game, lean on their defense, get after the quarterback with their defensive front, and then just pound you down your throat with their run game and basically bleed the clock and bleed the game. And then you look up and they're up by 2-3 touchdowns, and they've basically just bludgeoned you run after run. And then their defense, they can kind of just pin their ears back and rush after the quarterback and get after the quarterback with their stout defensive front. But what the Chiefs, like I said, what they did by just coming out hot and scoring on those first two drives, they forced the Baltimore Ravens to do things that they are not accustomed to doing and doing well. Lamar Jackson in the game had 37 passing attempts. That is not a recipe for success for Lamar Jackson and this Baltimore Ravens team. Yes, he's gotten better as a passer, but I'd love to see the numbers. I don't think he's very successful when he has 30, 35 plus passing attempts in the game. He's more in a 20 to 25, maybe 27, 28 at the most on a game basis. And that's where he's comfortable, and that's where they have their most success, where he's almost maybe 60-40 pass to run differential there. And it was not balanced at all. They had to drop back and pass. That is not what they do. That is not what this team does well. And they had to get away They had to get away from their game plan, and I thought they abandoned their game plan kind of early. Yes, like I said, you got punched in the mouth by Kansas City. You went down 7-0, then 14-7, and you kind of had to switch it up, but you really didn't. You didn't have to do a full switch. You don't have to go just scrap your entire game plan and your entire offensive game plan, which got you to this point. You didn't have to scrap that, but they did that. Todd Monken and this offense totally did that, and they were playing catch up the rest of the game, and they are not a team that is accustomed to doing that, and it was only a 10-point spread. Listen, the game was 17-7 at halftime, and of course it ends at 17-10, so it was only 3 points scored in the whole second half. Their defense came to play in the second half, the Ravens did. They shut out the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the second half. Had a lot of good third down stops, but What they did also do in the second half, which cost them, they could have got more opportunities for their offense, but they had 4 personal foul penalties in the. I believe all of them were in the second half as well, and all of them were legit, like Van Noy headbutting Travis Kelce. Now, I thought Travis Kelce got away with a lot of trash talking and just a lot of kind of shit talking the entire game, and he probably should have earned a couple of flags, but he didn't. He never made actual physical contact. It was always just kind of chirping at the other players. But the Ravens players were the ones that actually made physical contact, whether it was Kyle Van Noy headbutting Travis Kelce or their defensive tackle basically clubbing Patrick Mahomes alongside his head. Basically 2 plays later after that Kyle Van Noy penalty, and then you had later in the game Jadeveon Clowney putting his head down and hitting his head into Patrick Mahomes. You just can't do that in today's game. And it was undisciplined play from this Baltimore Ravens team, and it was very uncharacteristic. This is a team led by John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh is a fantastic coach. This is a team, they don't beat themselves. They don't have these personal foul, these unsportsmanlike penalties. They don't do this, but they got just, like I said, they just got hit so hard in the mouth to begin the game that they decided they were going to change their whole game plan, and they got away from everything that makes them who they are, makes them the Baltimore Ravens, made them the by far number 1 team coming into the playoffs. They got away from everything. And it was only a 10-point game. It was only a 7-point game when they went down 14-7, and some of these things started to transpire, and some of these changes that they thought they needed to make transpired. They didn't need to do that. And they had opportunity after opportunity in the second half to get back in this game. You had the Zay Flowers play where it's a big play down the field. You got a ton of momentum. He stands over L'Jarius Sneed and trash talks him, and then throws the ball on him and trash talks him even more and stands over him. Gets a 15-yard penalty, backs them up. They would have had the ball first and goal from like the 9-yard line. They got to go all the way back to the 24-yard line. Huge play and huge difference there. Then they get the ball back down there. Zay Flowers has an opportunity to score, reaches out the ball. As a Patriots fan, Bill Belichick would always say, you don't reach out the ball and you don't try to reach for that first down or reach for the end zone unless it's 4th down or it's legit the last play of the game. And he didn't need to do that. I'm pretty sure he could have just dove, kept the ball tucked on the side, and still scored. He had L'Jarius Sneed beat. He had to come from behind him and make that play. By the way, unbelievable play by Sneed there. A great play to knock that out and save 7 points from their defense of giving up on that play. But still, Zay Flowers, just mental mistakes. He's a rookie. He can be he can at least get away with that a little bit. But the other players, Kyle Van Noy is a veteran. Jadeveon Clowney is a veteran. And then you had that just awful throw by Lamar Jackson when they still had an opportunity to get back into this game. They're driving. They were all the way on their 2-yard line. They've already driven into the red zone into Chiefs territory, and he throws it into 3. He throws it into triple coverage to his number 2 tight end. Isaiah Likely has come on and has played well in a lot of games, but you're throwing into triple coverage to Isaiah Likely. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just an absolute terrible play by Lamar Jackson there. And it makes you kind of think, because it looked like to me what the Chiefs' game plan was. Obviously, the offense wanted to get out to a fast start and kind of get the Ravens uncomfortable. But the defensive game plan to me looked like, we're going to keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket as well as we can. We're not going to let him beat us with his legs. We're not going to let them run on. We're going to make Lamar Jackson and this Baltimore Ravens team beat us throwing the football because we don't think they can, and it turns out they couldn't. That looked to me what the defensive game plan was from Steve Spagnuolo, and it was a masterclass. They made him uncomfortable. He wasn't able to run. He didn't scramble nearly as much, and he had to drop back and pass over 40 times, and he had 37 passing attempts. So that's not a recipe for success for this Baltimore Ravens team. It never has been under Lamar Jackson. And I really don't think it ever will be, because what makes Lamar Jackson great and one of the best offensive weapons and best offensive players in the league is his ability to run and to scramble in the pocket and to extend plays also sometimes with the pocket and extend plays running down the field. His ability as an offensive weapon, not just as a quarterback playing from the pocket, that's what makes Lamar Jackson great, and that's what makes him just a nightmare for defenses to stop. And the Chiefs forced him to not be that guy, and then the Ravens played right into the Chiefs' hand and didn't make him that guy. You weren't down 20. You weren't down 3 touchdowns. You weren't even down 17. You were down 10 points and at 1.7 points, and you decided just to scrap your entire offense, which what got you to the point where you were hosting the AFC Championship game, and you decided to get all the way away from it. I think it was just an absolute out coaching by Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo over John Harbaugh and Todd Monken, the new offensive coordinator in his first year for the Baltimore Ravens. Just an absolute out coaching by the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens, and that was the difference in this game. Patrick Mahomes has a solid game. He started out hot, had a solid game, but what he did versus what Lamar Jackson did is he didn't make any mistakes. And Lamar Jackson had the fumble in the first half and then that awful interception in the second half. And there's the difference sometimes. The Chiefs were the ones that played a clean game. They didn't have any personal fouls. They didn't have any unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. They didn't have any turnovers. And you're looking at the Baltimore Ravens, who had 4 personal fouls / unsportsmanlike conducts, 2 turnovers, 1 in the red zone, in the end zone. And that's why you're going home. And when you get this far in the playoffs in the NFL, you have to play a clean game, especially when you're going up against the guy in Andy Reid, who's probably going to end up being a top 5 coach all time and is already top 4 in wins right now. And a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who could very well get his third Super Bowl victory in 2 weeks before he's turned 30. I think he's only 28 as well. So, like I said, that was the difference in the game. Was very disappointed with the way that the Ravens decided to play this game, and their decision is the reason they're going home. Let's go ahead and move to the NFC in another just wild game. And we're gonna and the game ended with the 49ers 34 and the Lions 31. Lions came out hot. They scored touchdowns on 3 of their first 4 drives. They were up 21-7. They were doing whatever they wanted to do. Over 100 plus rushing yards in the first half. They were averaging, I think, like 8.5 yards per carry in the first half. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. They even had the end around to Jameson Williams, which scored their first touchdown. They were getting whatever they wanted in the run game, and St. Brown and Sam Laporta were getting whatever they wanted in the pass game. The Detroit Lions in the first half on offense basically could do whatever they wanted, and they were averaging like 8-9 yards a play. But then halftime happened. And they didn't make adjustments. And not only did they not make adjustments, but they were playing like they were down, it felt like to me, at least with some of the calls. I've heard a lot of different pundits today try to defend Dan Campbell. Oh, he's been this aggressive guy all year. This is what he does. He goes for it on 4th down. And I get that, and I understand that, but this is the NFC Championship game. When you have the opportunity to go up 3 scores on the road against the team that you were a 7-point underdog against, you have an opportunity to go up 17 points. Yes, I know the field goal wasn't guaranteed, but I think Michael Badgley can make it. He made a 54-yard field goal earlier in the playoffs against the Rams. I know that was in a dome, but I mean, yesterday there was no tough conditions to kick in Santa Clara. It may as well have been in a dome. There was 0 wind. It was 70 degrees, and it was still sunny at that point, or at least it was still clear skies at that point. So I think he would have made the kick, but either way, then you could put it on the kicker if he misses at that point. But when you have the opportunity to do that, I get he wanted to go up 3 touchdowns. You go up 3 touchdowns on that drive there, and you probably put the game away, but you didn't get the first down on those first 3 plays. It was 4th and 2. You were in field goal range. Go up 3 scores. Because now not only do you have the momentum, you've scored again. You have them on their back. You have to kick the ball to them, so they're not going to get field position right there where you're at around the 30-something yard, about 35-yard line. No, they're going to have to get the ball. You'll probably kick it out of the end zone. They'll get it around probably about the same place, but they're starting a whole new drive. Now they're down 3 scores. You have momentum from another successful offensive drive. But no, you go for it on 4th down. Yes, Josh Reynolds should have probably caught the ball, but he didn't. And Jared Goff had to scramble a little bit, so it wasn't a great throw. And Josh Reynolds just couldn't get it. It was a little bit outside, but couldn't bring it in. But now what you do when you don't get that first down there, you give the momentum back to the San Francisco 49ers, who felt like they had zero momentum and were reeling at that point, and their backs were all the way up against the wall. You give them just a little bit of momentum that they have finally stopped you, because they hadn't been able to do that all game to this point, and stopped you on 4th down. So it's a big change. And 2 plays later, we have that huge 50-yard pass that goes off of, I think, C.J. Gardner-Johnson's hands and helmet. Brandon Ayuk makes an unbelievable catch on that play, and then boom, momentum flipped on a dime. They score. A couple plays later, Jahmyr Gibbs fumbles. A couple plays later, the San Francisco 49ers score, and in the blink of an eye, you're in a tie game where you could have been up 17, controlling the momentum, controlling where you're going to kick the ball. You're not setting them up. You're not giving them any momentum in this game by getting a 4th down stop. So that first one there, I thought was not a good call, and I thought was indefensible there. The second one, when it's later in the 4th quarter, you have an opportunity to tie the game back up. You're closer in field goal range. It's 4th and 3, so it's a yard further than your first 4th down attempt. You have to take the field goal and tie the game. There's 7.5 minutes left in this game. They're not going to be able to they shouldn't be able to bleed out the entire clock. You still have all 3 timeouts. But if you don't pick this up there, they were moving the ball at will. You go down 10. The game is effectively over. They go for it. They don't get it. 49ers go down the field, get another touchdown, and basically put the game on ice at that point. And so Dan Campbell, to me, yes, I love his bravado, the way he just wears his emotions on his sleeve. And yes, he's an aggressive guy. It's not analytics for him. It's just aggressiveness, and it's just the way he coaches. But you do have to switch it up a little bit when you get into these big games. This isn't week 5. This isn't even week 18 or week 17 late in the season. This is the NFC freaking championship game, and you have a chance to go to the Super Bowl for the first time in your franchise history. And you're not an expansion franchise that just got created, last week. You're an original franchise that's been around since the 40s. You have an opportunity to go to a Super Bowl, and you're going to call plays like that, and you're going to make those kind of decisions. To me, obviously, I don't think he should be fired. I thought that a little bit last night, but no, he's taken them to a place they've never really been before, and to an opportunity they've never really been before, even though he kind of squandered it. Shouldn't be fired, but he has a lot of explaining to do, and I would sit him down and be like, hey, we understand this is what you do. This is who you are. There's a difference. If you want to do this in week 5 against, the Green Bay Packers or the Minnesota Vikings, go ahead, be my guest. You're not going to do this when you're up 14 on the road against the NFC's number 1 seed in the San Francisco 49ers. You're not going to do this when you have their backs against the wall. You're not going to give them any momentum. Take the field goal, take the points, because your ultimate goal is to win this game and get on the Super Bowl. You don't need to blow out this team. Your ultimate goal is to win the damn game. Kick the damn field goal, get the 3 points. If the kicker misses it, that's on the kicker. But take the damn points when you have the opportunity, especially when you have the opportunity to go up 3 scores, or in that second scenario when you have the opportunity to tie the game. So that was kind of my reaction there to what happened there. But just to look at the 49ers, they made adjustments in the second half. Their defense played a lot better. They were a lot more stout against the run, even though the Lions only had 8 rushing attempts. In the second half, I thought that was not good either. You got totally away from what was winning you the game and what was your bread and butter in the first half. But the 49ers made the adjustments, and you have to give them credit for capitalizing on the mistakes that the Lions made, whether it was the blown 4th down calls or whether it was Jahmyr Gibbs' fumble or Josh Reynolds' drops. The 49ers took advantage of those opportunities and capitalized on them and got touchdowns and got themselves back in the game, got themselves the lead, put their foot on the gas, and basically didn't look back at that point. They scored 27 unanswered points in the third and fourth quarter. And then Brock Purdy is a guy I still think isn't an elite quarterback, but he is definitely a quarterback that you can rely on in big moments, and he showed that the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks, he's had poor first halves, came back in the second half, played better, played really well in fourth quarters, made big throws on big drives. And the key yesterday for the 49ers and for Brock Purdy was those key scrambles at the end of the game. He ended up having 4 key scrambles at the end of the game where he averaged almost 10 yards a carry and got first downs basically on every single one of those carries. Those were huge because that's not in the defensive game plan for the Detroit Lions. It's to worry about Brock Purdy's legs and Brock Purdy scrambling. That's not in their game plan. That's not what they're thinking about when they're thinking about stopping your offense. And that's a difference that Brock Purdy added to this game. Made a couple of big throws. He had one, I think, to Jawan Jennings where he threw across his body and kind of just dropped one right over the corner or safety that was guarding him. So hats off to Brock Purdy and having a great second half. Hats off to the San Francisco 49ers for making those adjustments and capitalizing on those mistakes by the Detroit Lions. This team is a team that probably shouldn't have won either of their playoff games, but their maturity and their mental toughness and their way of capitalizing on mistakes that were made by the Packers 2 weeks ago and that were made by the Detroit Lions yesterday is what is the reason that they're in the Super Bowl. Now, could they get behind 14 or 17 to the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl and probably overcome that? Probably not, because the Packers and Lions have good quarterbacks in Jordan Love and Jared Goff, but they don't have Patrick Mahomes. There's a difference there, obviously. So either way, hats off to the Lions and the Chiefs. They will be obviously going to the Super Bowl and playing on February 12th, that Sunday there. Early line has kind of moved all around. It started at, I think it was minus 2.5 for the 49ers. Now I think it's all the way down to 1.5 or even 1 for the 49ers. I think that fluctuates. Early look, I think I like the Chiefs in this game. It's just hard to give Mahomes and Reed 2 weeks to prepare for you and not think that they're not going to come out with an awesome offensive game plan. And then that defense for the Chiefs is just nasty. They get after the quarterback with Chris Jones up front and George Karlaftis, but their back end guys, whether it's Trent McDuffie or L'Jarius Sneed, they can shut down wide receivers. So guys like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, they can guard them. Maybe not one-on-one, and Deebo Samuel's a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife. He's harder to guard, but either way, like I said, it's just hard for me to think that the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are going to get 2 weeks to prepare for a team and not come out just firing on all cylinders. And yes, I still don't love their offensive personnel outside of Mahomes and Kelsey, and I do like Pacheco as well, but they find a way. And this 49ers defense, as we've seen in the first 2 playoff games, yes, they do make adjustments in the second half, but as you've seen in these first 2 games for them in the playoffs, you can run the ball on them. You could throw. There's yards to be had on this 49ers defense. This isn't the 49ers defense of last year or the years prior when they had DeMeco Ryans and Robert Saleh at the helm at the defensive coordinators. This defense is a lot more susceptible than they've been. They don't get after the passer nearly as much. Basically, Bosa's the only guy that gets after the passer on a somewhat consistent basis. You really can run the ball on their defense, and you can actually pass the ball on their secondary as well. So early look at this game, I would lean towards the Chiefs. Of course, things are going to come out in the next couple of weeks that could change my mind, but early lean would be the Kansas City Chiefs. You'll get my full Super Bowl preview next week. I'll break down the entire Super Bowl game, and then I'm going to try to get some people on to make their picks as well, some of my friends and family. But either way, this has been Sports Talk on a Budget. Thank you for watching and listening. Of course, you can find this on YouTube under Sports Talk on a Budget. Please like and subscribe to the show right underneath here. And then if you prefer the audio version, you listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or basically wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you again for watching and listening, and have a great day.